Your family now, pay your share. That's what her mother, Sharon, said with a straight face like she wasn't demanding a goddamn ransom for marrying her daughter. And what did my beautiful, loving wife, Madison, do? She nodded. That's only right, she added, smug as hell, swirling her wine like she just closed a deal. The rest of the family laughed, her father, her two brothers, even her cousin Olivia, who barely knew how to boil an egg but suddenly had a lot to say about financial responsibility. I sat there, jaw clenched, staring at the faces around the table, faces that used to greet me with warmth, now vultures picking clean what they thought was their rightful share of my life. They really thought I was going to roll over. Just hand it over like a good little puppet. That's when I smirked. Their laughter died fast. Then you won't mind if I stop paying for your apartment, Sharon, I said, locking eyes with her mother. Or your car, or your medical bills. Or the lake house renovation I just funded last month. Because if we're sharing like a family, then maybe it's time you started pulling your weight too. Silence. You could hear the clink of Olivia's fork dropping. Madison's face tightened, like I just slapped her with a truth she hadn't prepared for. Her voice came out low, venomous. Ethan, don't be dramatic. Dramatic. I leaned in, my voice sharp and calm. No, sweetheart. Dramatic was when your mother called a family meeting like I was the goddamn CFO of some broken corporation. Dramatic is pretending this marriage is a merger while you treat me like a paycheck. Her brothers shifted in their chairs. Sharon's lips curled, but I didn't stop. Want my salary? I whispered. Cool. Let's talk about value. Let's talk about loyalty. Let's talk about that little secret you've been keeping for the last 6 months. Her eyes snapped up. Yeah, there it was. Madison froze. Her poker face? Cracked. Just a flicker, but I saw it. And that flicker told me everything. I knew. And now, so did she. Let me rewind. It started with a charger. Not a lover's whisper, not lipstick on a collar, just a goddamn phone charger. I came home late from work 2 weeks ago and found an extra charger plugged into the outlet beside our bed. An off-brand one. I use Apple. She uses Apple. So who the hell owned this cheap knockoff? I picked it up. It smelled like cologne. Not mine. Didn't say a word then. I just smiled, kissed her cheek, and tucked that little thread away. I've worked in finance long enough to know that the smallest discrepancy usually hides the biggest fraud. I started watching her. Closely. She was more tired these days. More late at the office. Her texts were shorter. She stopped touching me in small, stupid ways, the hand on the back, the leg over mine at night. Nothing screamed betrayal, but the quiet screamed change. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I went through her messages. Not her phone. No, she was smarter than that. But her laptop, her old MacBook she forgot still syncs her iMessages. Left unlocked while she took a bath. There he was. Z. Just that. A letter. No name. No emoji. Just Z. I read a month's worth of chats. Not one was sexual. Not one was graphic. But they didn't need to be. You calm me down in ways he doesn't. I wish I could wake up next to you instead. He doesn't even notice when I'm not home. Every word was a needle. Every, hugs and kisses, was a slap. She told him she loved his voice. She told him she cried after seeing him because it was too good to be true. She told him she wanted to run away and start clean. All while eating dinners I cooked, wearing rings I bought, sleeping next to a man she lied to every single night. But I didn't confront her then. No, I'm not a yeller. I don't throw things. I calculate. So I waited for the family meeting. Waited for the moment they pushed too far. And now? Now I was holding the detonator. I saw Madison's throat move as she swallowed, her eyes scanning everyone in the room, looking for an out. For someone to speak up. No one did. So I stood. Thanks for dinner, I said. But if I'm family now, really family, then I guess it's only fair we start sharing everything. And with that, I walked out. Not before dropping a folder on the table. Inside? Printed screenshots. Labeled. Dated. Stamped. And the last one? A picture of Madison and Z. At a motel. Her hand on his chest. Her wedding ring off. Madison didn't come home that night. Not a text. Not a call. Just silence. I sat in our living room, lights dim, her favorite scented candle still flickering like nothing had happened. As if betrayal hadn't been paraded across a dining table in front of her whole damn family. At 3:12 a.m., I heard the key in the door. She walked in slowly, heels in her hand, mascara smudged under her eyes, not from tears, no. From time. From whatever else she had been doing. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time in 8 years, There was no performance. No fake smile. No warmth. Just wariness. You're awake. You were supposed to be home for the last 5 hours. She placed her purse on the console and looked at me like I was the one who betrayed her. Like I had embarrassed her at that dinner instead of ripping the mask off a liar in designer heels. I needed time to think, she said finally. Oh, and where did you do all that thinking? Room 308 again? Her jaw tensed. But still, no apology. Not even an ounce of shame. What do you want from me, Ethan? You want me to beg? Cry? Say I made a mistake and I'm so sorry? Because I'm not. I'm not sorry for wanting more than this, than you. You've been half here for years, chasing your numbers and stocks and meetings. I stood up slowly. Madison, I said, voice low, don't pretend this is about me working late when you were the one scheduling lunch dates at cheap motels while I was paying off your student debt. She flinched, but didn't back down. You enabled this life. You made me feel like a kept woman, like all I was good for was showing up and smiling. So yeah, I found someone who sees me, who listens. You found someone, I repeated. But you didn't leave me. You just fed me lies and used my money to keep the house warm while you played pretend wife. She rolled her eyes. Rolled. Her. Eyes. You know what your problem is, Ethan? You think loyalty is a one-size-fits-all contract. You think just because you provide, you own me. No, I said coldly. But I did think marriage meant something. That you meant your vows. That love didn't come with a receipt. Her expression shifted, soft for a flicker of a second, then hardened again. This isn't working anymore. I know. I walked past her to the staircase, but halfway up, I paused. Looked back. Oh, and about your mother's little demand. She tilted her head. I canceled her lease. The one I paid for. She has 60 days. Madison's mouth parted, stunned. You wouldn't. I already did. And the car? Gone. The insurance? Cut. If she wants me to be part of the family, she can learn what happens when you treat family like a damn piggy bank. You're just bitter. I smirked, same one I gave her mother. No, Madison. I'm free. She stood there in the doorway, the queen of a crumbling little castle I built for her brick by brick. And she realized it too late, she had never owned the crown. She just stole the throne. I spent the night in the guest room. She didn't knock. The next morning, she left for work like nothing had happened. I packed a bag. Changed every password, canceled every joint card, and I hired the best divorce attorney in the city, the one her cousin used against her ex. Petty? No. Strategic. Because Madison didn't just lie. She played me. And I don't lose. The first email from her lawyer came 3 days later. A polite, formal letter requesting amicable discussions and equitable division of assets. As if we were negotiating a business merger and not tearing down a life built over a decade. I didn't respond. Not immediately. I wanted her to sweat. Instead, I sent her flowers. White lilies. The same kind she made me send to her grandmother's funeral because she claimed they symbolized peace and closure. The card attached? To Madison. Rest in peace, our marriage. She got them delivered to her office. Her assistant, someone I used to help with resume templates and LinkedIn advice, called me and said, that was cold, Ethan. I said, tell her it's just beginning. By the time we actually sat down in a room together, her on one side with her sleek-suited lawyer, me on the other with my attorney, Calvin, the air between us could have frozen fire. She wore red lipstick. Bold. Defiant. The same shade she used to wear when she wanted to shut down a conversation. Her lawyer opened with, we're seeking 50% of all marital assets, including but not limited to the primary residence, shared investments, and Ethan's company equity. Madison sat there without blinking. I didn't even flinch. Calvin leaned forward, his tone relaxed, almost amused. That's interesting, because we're filing for fault-based divorce. On grounds of adultery, financial manipulation, and emotional cruelty. And we've got receipts. Shall we go through the screenshots, or do you want to settle this privately? Her lawyer stiffened. Madison's hands twitched, just barely, like she forgot for a moment who she was playing chess with. You wouldn't, she hissed. I already did, I said. She leaned in. You're destroying both of us. No, I said quietly. You did that. I'm just cleaning up the mess. She stormed out halfway through the meeting. Her lawyer stayed behind. Do you want to hurt her or end this? He asked me. Why can't I do both? He didn't answer. Just gathered his papers and left. For the next 2 weeks, I didn't hear from her. Not directly, but I heard from friends. Mutual ones. Coworkers. People who used to say we were a power couple. She's telling everyone you emotionally neglected her. She said you manipulated her for years. She claims the affair started after she realized you were more in love with your money than her. I laughed at that one. Because if anyone knew Madison, really knew her, they'd remember how she once screamed at a waiter because he brought her sparkling water instead of still. They'd remember the birthday dinner where she got drunk and said I was boring in front of 12 of our closest friends. They'd remember the vacation she canceled because I refused to upgrade to first class. But truth doesn't matter when you're trying to protect an image. So I let her dig. She kept posting on Instagram. Wine glasses. Inspirational quotes. Gym selfies. The caption on one? Sometimes you have to lose everything to find yourself. I commented under it. Guess we're both finding a lot these days. She deleted the post. I smiled. This wasn't about winning the divorce anymore. This was about something bigger. This was about making sure the next man she tried to trap saw her not as the victim she pretended to be, but as the architect of her own downfall. And I hadn't even dropped the final card yet, because she didn't know I hired a forensic accountant. She didn't know I traced every cent of the business trips she expensed through my card. She didn't know I knew about the fake LLC she set up under her cousin's name, the one she was funneling money into to build a future. And she definitely didn't know I was about to expose it all in court. She wanted to play games? Fine. But she forgot. I don't bluff. 2 weeks later, she showed up at my apartment. Not the house. I left that for her temporarily because I knew what was coming would bury her faster than any eviction notice. I had moved into a high-rise downtown, clean, cold, and quiet. The kind of place with security at the front desk and mirrors everywhere, so no one could hide who they were. She was wearing a gray coat, hair wet from the rain. No makeup this time. No lipstick armor. Can we talk? She asked. I let her in. She walked around like she'd never seen the place, touching the marble counter, the glass shelves, the empty wine rack. This is sterile, she muttered. Fitz, I said, shutting the door behind her. She turned slowly. I didn't come to fight. Good. Because you'd lose. She breathed in like she wanted to scream, but she didn't. I came to say I'm sorry. I raised an eyebrow. For what? The cheating? The lies? The shakedown with your family? You'll have to be more specific. I messed up, she whispered. I got scared. You were always 10 steps ahead, and I felt like I was losing myself in your shadow. I stared at her. The woman who used to make my coffee just the way I liked it, who used to wrap her arms around me in the middle of the night without a word. The woman who once said she felt safest with me. And now she was standing there like a stranger. You didn't get scared, Madison. You got greedy. And when greed meets entitlement, people do things they think they're too clever to get caught doing. She stepped closer. It didn't mean anything with him. Don't insult me. If it meant nothing, you would have stopped. Her jaw flexed. You think you're perfect? No, I said. But I was faithful. And I was honest. And I was yours. She looked away. I didn't come to beg for you back. I know. I just wanted to see if there's anything left of us. Even just as people. I walked to the table, picked up a white envelope, and held it out. She took it. Slowly opened it. Inside were 3 documents. The divorce filing, the evidence summary, and the lawsuit for fraud. Her hands started shaking. You created a fake LLC, Madison. That's not just betrayal. That's criminal. You embezzled from your own husband. It wasn't like that, You took over $24,000 in 6 months, laundering it through your cousin's fake startup and into your own account. I have the transfers. I have the IP logs. I have the email thread where you called me the dumb investor who funds her side life. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. You came here to talk? I said, stepping close enough she could feel how calm I was. Fine. Here's your truth. I loved you more than anyone ever should have. I trusted you more than anyone deserved. And you burned it all for, what? A thrill? A boy with cologne from CVS? A fantasy that made you feel powerful for 5 minutes. I made mistakes. No, I cut in. You made choices. She looked like she wanted to cry, but I didn't believe it anymore. And I didn't care. You'll be served next week, I said. And don't bother showing up in court with the mascara trick. The judge won't care. She put the envelope down, lips trembling. Ethan, please. I never thought it would go this far. I stared into her eyes. That's the difference between us, Madison. I always see the end game. She walked out without another word, and I didn't watch her go. I turned back to my laptop, sent one last email to her employer. Subject, Legal disclosure regarding financial misconduct. Because if she wanted to play dirty, she should have known who she married. 3 days later, I got a call from her boss. He wasn't angry. He was concerned. Confused. He said things like, "I'm sure this is a misunderstanding," and "Madison's always been a top performer." I told him to check the dates on the wire transfers, the fake vendor invoices, the shared bank account with her cousin's name and Madison's phone number as the recovery option. He went quiet. "Mr. West," he finally said, "I'll have our legal department reach out. Please understand, we take this very seriously." I told him I was counting on it. Later that evening, Madison tried calling me twice. Then once from her cousin's number. Then from a restricted line. I didn't answer. Not because I didn't want to. Because there was nothing left to say. If you light a match in a room full of gasoline, you don't get to cry when the house burns down. The next morning, Calvin texted me. "She's panicking. Offered to settle. Wants to avoid court." I replied with 2 words. "No deal." I went back to my day: emails, meetings, lunch with my CTO. For the first time in weeks, I felt focused. Like I could breathe. The weight wasn't gone, but it was shifting. Like a storm moving east after weeks of sitting right over your head. That night, I drove by the house. Not to see her. Just to see what it looked like now that it was no longer home. Lights were off. Curtains drawn. The grass was starting to overgrow. She never did care about maintenance. There was a "for sale" sign in the front yard. I chuckled. Probably thought she'd get half and start fresh somewhere sunny. But she wasn't getting half. She was getting audited. And if I was right, and I always am, she was about to get a visit from the IRS, too. I drove away. 2 days after that, I saw her name trending. Small-time buzz, finance blogs, a Reddit thread, LinkedIn chatter. Words like embezzlement, scandal, possible indictment. Nothing confirmed. But enough to stain. Enough that her job couldn't ignore it. Enough that her parents, yes, the ones who wanted half my paycheck, were suddenly unreachable. I got a text from her brother. "Dude, I don't know what she did, but damn." I didn't reply. I let it all fall the way it needed to. Let her feel the walls she built close in. Let her realize that some people forgive quietly, and others, they build wrecking balls. The night before our first court date, I got one last letter. Handwritten. Left at the front desk of my building. No return address. No apology, either. Just this. "I thought I was smarter than you. I was wrong. But I still don't regret wanting something different. I just regret thinking I could get away with it. You were the real thing. I was just pretending to be." She signed it. Madison. I folded it. Didn't rip it. Didn't respond. Just placed it in a drawer with the rest of the evidence. Because some wounds don't bleed. They calculate. They document. They wait. I was done waiting. Tomorrow, I go to court. Tomorrow, she finds out what it means to betray someone who doesn't raise his voice, but never forgets. And tomorrow, I walk out a free man. Not just from her. From all of it. Court felt colder than I expected. Not the temperature, just the energy. Like everyone in the room already knew someone was about to lose something big, and they didn't want to get too close in case it rubbed off. Madison walked in with her lawyer first. She looked thinner, pale, hair pulled tight like it was the only thing she still had control over. She wore gray again, not her usual power red. She didn't even look at me. I didn't flinch, didn't nod. I sat beside Calvin and waited. The judge was a woman in her 50s. Sharp, serious, no room for theatrics. Perfect. Madison's side tried to start with emotional hardship, career sacrifice, and that same tired narrative she'd been feeding anyone who'd listen, that I was a cold, inattentive husband who buried her under ambition. Then it was our turn. Calvin didn't waste time. He slid the forensic audit across the table like it was nothing. He listed the transfers, named the dates, identified the shell company. Then, with surgical precision, he explained how Madison had not only committed financial deception but had done it while positioning herself as a victim. The screenshots came next. Not the personal ones. Just the ones that proved planning, premeditation, and financial misconduct. Madison didn't say a word. Her lawyer looked like he'd aged 10 years in 10 minutes. When it was over, the judge leaned back and said, "We'll reconvene in 1 week with a decision regarding asset division. In the meantime, both parties are instructed to remain financially separated until further ruling." I walked out before she could speak to me, but in the hallway, she followed. "Ethan," she said quietly. I didn't stop. "I'm not going to fight anymore. I'll sign whatever." I turned slowly. "I'm not doing this to punish you, Madison. I'm doing this so the next man doesn't walk into the same trap blind. Her eyes welled up. I didn't plan for it to go this far. No, I said. You planned to use me. You just didn't plan on getting caught. I left her standing there. Same place she stood the night I handed her the envelope. Same blank look. Same silence. 1 week later, the ruling came in. I got the house. The car. My company shares untouched. She got her debt, and a warning about possible future charges if any more fraudulent activity surfaced. It wasn't jail. Not yet. But it was ruin. And it was public. In our circles, Madison West was no longer the power wife with Instagram quotes and brunch plans. She was a cautionary tale. I never posted anything. Never gloated. Just changed my locks. Changed my number. Changed my life. 6 months passed. Then, one day, I ran into her. Grocery store. Mid-aisle. She looked normal. Beige coat. Flat shoes. No spark. I almost didn't recognize her. Hi, she said softly. I nodded. We stood there for a few seconds. Two ghosts. I'm working again, she offered. Different field. I nodded again. She hesitated. Then, do you hate me? I thought about that. No, I said. You were the lesson, not the punishment. She blinked, then turned, pushed her cart away, and never looked back. And I walked out, sunlight hitting my face like I just stepped into my life for the first time. Clean. Unapologetic. And finally, free. I didn't date for a while after that. Not because I couldn't. Because I wouldn't. Because after you've had your world dismantled from the inside by the one person who was supposed to protect it, you start building differently. Slower. Smarter. With less trust and more locks. But freedom has a strange rhythm. At first, it feels like silence. Then it becomes space. Then it turns into possibility. I filled that space with things I hadn't done in years. I called old friends. I took long walks with no destination. I learned how to cook like a man who wasn't trying to impress anyone. I read books with no purpose. Just curiosity. I traveled. Just once, at first. A week in Lisbon. Alone. No posts. No photos. No stories. Just sunsets and seafood and strangers who didn't care about my past. I sat in cafes for hours, listening to languages I didn't understand and feeling more connected than I ever did in my own house. Back home, I got back into my work with a fire I didn't know I had. Everything I had built, every dollar I had earned, it felt cleaner now. Untangled from manipulation. Untouched by guilt. People noticed. You're different, my partner at the firm said. More focused. I was. Because now I knew what mattered. Not the numbers. Not the titles. Not even revenge. Clarity. That's what I had. I bumped into Olivia, Madison's cousin, a few months later. She apologized for her part in everything, said she never knew the full extent. Maybe she didn't. I didn't care. She said Madison had moved back in with her parents. She'd gone quiet. Stayed off social media. Rumor was she tried to get a job in another city and couldn't pass the background checks. I nodded. Said nothing. Let the silence speak. Because here's the truth. I don't hate Madison. She was a storm. A beautiful, destructive storm. And for a while, I stood in the center of it, thinking I was safe just because I was still standing. But storms don't love you. They don't care who you are. They don't stop when you beg. They pass. And when they do, if you're lucky, you get to rebuild. Stronger. Wiser. Unshakable. I still wear my ring. Not the wedding one. A new one. Silver. Simple. A reminder. Not of her. Of me. Of what I survived. Of what I won't ever allow again. Sometimes, late at night, I still think about the version of her I fell in love with. But I know now that version never existed. And I don't miss her. I miss the man I was before I met her. But he's gone. And the one who replaced him? He's better. He knows the cost of love. He knows the weight of betrayal. And most importantly, he knows how to walk away without ever looking back. It's strange how peace doesn't come with applause. There's no soundtrack. No spotlight. Just stillness. The kind that used to scare me. The kind I used to fill with noise, people, parties, responsibilities, validation. But now, I guard that stillness like it's sacred. Because it is. It means no more lies. No more fake smiles across the dinner table. No more pretending I didn't notice her slipping away. It means I survived her. I kept the house in the end. But I don't live there. I couldn't. It was filled with her fingerprints, her shadows, her ghosts. I sold it. Donated a portion of the money. Not for karma. Just because I could. I bought a smaller place outside the city. Clean walls, open windows, hardwood floors she never walked on, a blank slate. Sometimes, people ask me if I'll ever get married again. I say maybe, but I know the truth. I won't love blindly ever again. That version of love, the one where you hand someone your heart and pray they don't crush it, that's gone. It died with her first lie. Now, love will have to earn its way in. And that's not bitterness. That's wisdom. There's freedom in not needing anyone to complete you. There's power in knowing you can lose everything and still come out sharper, smarter, more. I've rebuilt myself from the ash of her betrayal, and I like who I am now. Stronger, colder, clearer, untouchable. So no, I don't hate her. I don't think about her when I wake up. I don't wonder who she's with. I don't stalk her social media, if she even has one anymore. She took my past, but I took my future, and I'm building it alone. Brick by brick, truth by truth, mile by mile, into something no one can ever break again. That's not revenge. That's resurrection. And this time, it's permanent.